Right, guys, today we come down to the doing of things, and I think one of the most exciting modules. One, we're going to be tackling learning to let go of disempowering habits, and two, we're going to be looking at empowering habits or learning to train or build empowering habits. And I use the word empowering very profoundly because it's all about you. So most importantly, remember from the previous teachings, this module, this whole guidance, this teaching, and any teaching that you actually absorb going forward should be around empowering yourself. And learning empowering habits or letting go of disempowering habits is critical and very important along your journey in life, along anything that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to work at or towards, let go. It's all around the word empower. And that just means the moment you give away your power or the moment you rely too much on something, whatever that external source is, you will be hooked into it, and it's not an empowering habit and it's not good for you. Here's my story, and here's how you can reflect to what I went through, and then we'll look at how to empower yourself from that space. So first off, I had to let go of the disempowering habits, and for me those were drinking too much. So I was drinking on a daily basis, and I really wanted to let go of that. I was procrastinating, so not doing much, being typically lazy. I was smoking, and let's just look at those three. And the biggest of those were drinking. So this is also great for you if you have any friends that are struggling or that are looking at letting go of drinking and just don't know how to. But you can take the learnings from what I've gone through and apply them to yourself for anything that you want to empower or let go of, and also share this with friends that might be struggling with something like drinking too much, smoking, maybe drugs, sex, anything like that. So on the drinking side, it was challenging for me because I came from a family where drinking was a daily thing. It was normal. A culture in Southern Africa, it's a complete norm or normality for people to drink on a daily basis, basically, and there's no problem at all whatsoever with drinking too much as such. And I also don't say that it is a challenge. I'm not labeling as such. So very importantly, it's for everybody to choose what they want to do in their lives. And for me, there was a space for drinking, and it was a space to relax. And it was, for me, something I connected to my father with, because as I grew up, that was typically the time we spent together, and we connected through drinking. And we really did spend and have great moments and great times. And I could always know that from drinking, I would actually never lose myself in the process. So I would still be in control, in the sense that I wouldn't overdo it. I wouldn't end up falling over or passing out, but I would do too much of it in the sense that I would really wake up, not feel great about myself. My body would be feeling tired. My emotions would be all over the place. I would just be on edge, and typical hangover symptoms. And even later on in my life, I would not even have those. And then you really know that you're in a space of doing a lot of it, that your body's typically gotten completely used to the process, and I would actually start craving it. And the craving, I think, is more on an emotional side than it is on a physical side, although there is a physical craving that comes up, if you've been doing it regularly for daily practice or continuously. For me, it was the day that I let go was quite fearful, because I found myself really struggling, resisting the drink, and it was fearful in the sense that I had attached so much power to drinking, specifically through facing the anxiety. So for me, it wasn't so much just letting go because it made me feel bad. It was for me letting go because now I didn't have something to numb the anxiety, to numb the feelings, to numb the emotions that I was sitting with. And that was more so the challenge. And so it was a normality for me that if I felt anxious, if I felt scared, if I felt in a space that I was uneasy, so with people, friends, I would drink. And now all of a sudden I was in a space that I was not going to drink. And more so, I was in a space, in a culture where it was a total normal thing to drink. And the moment I stopped drinking, there was a heavy judgment. So remember again, the judgment doesn't so much come from outside, so from the people that one perceives the judgment to come from, it's always from ourselves. So I really did feel judged, but this was actually me judging myself from people. And especially in Namibia, in Africa, it's a normality for men to drink at an event, at occasions of gatherings, of coming together. And not drinking, I think, would trigger a lot of people. So what's wrong with this guy? Why is he not drinking? What's he doing? So having to just go through that first process was quite challenging in itself. And actually having the strength and the ability to just stay neutral and grounded and not get hooked into the judgments, not get hooked into the opportunities. Just have one, it's not that bad. Just have a beer, man, or wine is good for you, it's okay, just have one. And just resisting, just actually, no, this is not for me. I'm going through this process, I'm going through this journey, and I don't want to do this at the moment. So, very first off, let me tell you this. In the beginning, it's important that you possibly stay away from these scenarios, from these occasions, from these gatherings, from friends that typically do drink a lot, and not so much because you don't want to connect to them, but so much that you just don't want to end up actually drinking. You want to just stay away from that process until you feel that you are strong enough, that you are capable enough to not to get hooked into that moment, into that moment where somebody convinces you, into yourself letting go and actually just taking that first drink. This for me was a process of about 2 to 3 months. So for the very first 2 to 3 months period, I just didn't go out, I didn't meet with friends, I didn't have to go to these occasions where I was posed with the opportunity to drink, because I just didn't feel strong enough in that moment. So in that first period, during that first period, first night, it was intense. And I think more so again, it's our resistance to feeling what we needed to feel that creates the intensity. It's the resistance of going through that process. Some might call it withdrawal symptoms, and there will be some physically, sweating, nauseous, more anxiety, and that's all good. And again, try moving into that space of just being aware of what you're going through. Do and use the coping tools. Drink a lot of water, and then typically in the evenings, specifically around 5 o'clock. So the space from 5 to 7 is when your kidneys work the most. It's also when we process fear the most. It's through our kidneys. It is when you want to drink something sweet, and this typically something healthy sweet, so fruit juices, your fruit shakes, and really just get those in, and they help me profoundly. So in this space, that's often when we get the highest cravings, is this hour from 5 to 7, so happy hour, social drink time. And that's the time that you want to do either running or distract yourself from being in a social space environment where you could be posed with the opportunity to have a drink or do the drink. Also, remember, you don't just have to stop immediately. For some it's immediate, for others it's a process. You can also do this gradually. And that just means if you've been drinking, let's take it beer for instance, or if you've been drinking something more heavy like whiskey, you can let go step by step. So you can say, okay, instead of drinking 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever that amount is per night, let's half that, okay? And then pace yourself with halving that. See yourself, and on the first drink, try this. Know that you've got the ability to drink 2 or 3 or 4, or whatever goal you've set yourself for this week, for the day, and say, okay, I can drink 3, but let's just try this. Let's not drink anything tonight. And knowing that you can drink 3 drinks that night, or 2 or 1, but testing yourself and seeing, okay, let's see how long I can cope without having to have a drink. And specifically doing that between the hours of 5 and 7 in the evening. So that's typically when we do drink. For me, it was even sometimes during lunchtime. Say, okay, let's not have a drink during lunchtime. Let's move that to the evening. So this is an opportunity that you've got. You can go back to the drink, and that's what it is. You can always go back to it. But you're choosing, so you're empowering yourself not to. You've given yourself the permission to have 2 or 3, and that's something that you want to work towards. And again, guys, if you don't make it and you fall or you lapse and you drink 20, that's fine. You know, we go through this process of learning, of growing, of teaching ourselves. And you know, yes, you'll wake up and possibly judge yourself again and judge but let go of that. You know, try and just go back to the goal you've set yourself for the day, for the week. And for me, yes, in the beginning it was letting go bit by bit. So instead of drinking whiskey, I started to drink wine, and after I just drank wine, it was just white wine, and then I mixed the white wine with more water and less of it, and so on and so forth. But I really did come to the space where it was the absolute nothing. And I think that's the tipping point where we go from having something to nothing. And you could do this gradually again, where you have something on Mondays and maybe Wednesdays and Fridays, or just on weekends. You know, you're just a social drinker then, and you know, you pace yourself like that, and that's fine. For me, it was literally saying, no, I'm going to try and I'm going to test myself to just not drink, okay? And it was an aspect of literally going from one day drinking a lot to the next day drinking nothing anymore, and doing so for the last 3.5 years. And I have to say, where I'm now, it doesn't even appeal to me, not at all. You know, in the beginning there was times when people around me would drink, I would be triggered, and you know, there was a resistance and it was an uneasy feeling. Now I'm so comfortable. My wife has a few drinks, my friends, I can go to parties, I can go to events, and I have absolutely no need or want or anything or crave, or there's no desire at all for me for alcohol for whatever reason. I just don't feel appealed by it. I don't feel resistance to it, so there's no, let's call it negative labeling, judgment to it, but there's no desire. It just doesn't appeal to me. So really, I've moved into that space, and I'm very thankful for that. And I can link this back to when I stopped smoking. And this was, again, 5 years prior to that, where I was a social smoker, but usually smoked more when I was drinking. And I think it's easier to connect to the smoking side than the drinking, because smoking really doesn't taste good at all. And when we start smoking, I don't ever think we start smoking because it tastes good. We start smoking because of peer pressures, friends doing it, you know, it's in the moment. And then before you know it, it's more of a habit. And I think smoking really becomes a habit, that after coffee you smoke, and typically when you drink one you smoke. And for me it was, when I had a drink, the cigarette came out, and I would bum one from this friend and that friend, etc. And so to stop smoking was like quite easy, because you know, it really didn't taste good, and it really didn't smell good, and really didn't make me feel good. And just a few weeks after I'd stopped smoking, there was never ever a feeling of I needed that again, or I wanted that again, because I really could connect to the space that wasn't good for me at all on any level. And to make that connection was easy. With alcohol again, it was more difficult because I used alcohol to allow me to feel better, and I used alcohol to allow me to push down the feelings that I was resisting, like anxiety, fear, uncomfortableness, etc. So that was more difficult to let go of because I'd made alcohol a remedy for my healing. So it often came in disguise that, yeah, but the drinking helps me, and it helps me in this space, and I feel more at ease. And now that I'm feeling so scared or anxious or uncomfortable, let's just have one drink. Or, especially later on, you'll realize it's okay to have one drink at Friends, and you just don't want to not have a drink. And this is, keep on hearing that story, but that is somebody else's story. Try and come from a space of, is this serving a purpose in my life right now? Is it helping me? Is it doing good to me? Is it doing good to my body? No, it isn't. It's sugar, it's an overload, and it isn't healthy for you at all on any level. And disconnecting from the cultural side, disconnecting from the family side, disconnecting from the friendship side of things, it's just not healthy. And anything we've labeled around it, so it makes it more fun, and you're not fun to be around if you're not drinking, or it's not as, you don't enjoy the party as much, or that's all just a judgment and a label on the situation. It should be that you should be just as fun and enjoy it more so when you don't have a drink. And that was a big realization for me. That was a big aha moment. It was like, wow, if I can't enjoy myself without the drink, because that's authentically who I am, that's the person, the awareness that takes everything in, that experiences everything, and also for others to experience, then what am I? Okay? And it became a space of, wow, now that I'm not drinking, I can take everything in. And typically later on in the evenings, and the more people drink and the more the party continues, one does get into a space where, for me, it just felt like now it's not anything constructive for me anymore. Anymore, in the sense of people are talking about the same stuff over and over. It's more difficult to understand what they are talking about. So the connection just isn't the same. So that just allowed me to see that none of that is what I wanted anymore and is good for me anymore. And so back to that first week and that first night specifically, I would hear the bottle calling my name. And it was crazy frightening. I thought, oh my goodness, there's something evil in the bottle, and I've been hooked into this, and all sorts of other belief systems came up. It didn't matter what I did, it just drove me absolutely insane. And so what really did work for me is a process you can try if you're in that space, is I took the bottle and in front of my nose I threw it out, and I said to it, you do not control me, you do not own me. And I did that with everything I had in the house. I emptied it out and I threw it away. And then also I made sure that I didn't have anything around me. So I didn't have the ability to get lost or to get hooked into that space of needing it or making up some kind of excuse for myself. It just wasn't there. And looking back from where I am now, I wasn't as aware as I was then. And that, I think, was the main challenge. I was really scared of the emotions I was feeling. So I was frightened to feel the fear of not drinking or being in this uncomfortable position of not drinking. If you're in that space, my suggestion to you is to feel it, to be in that space. It's okay. Remember, it's not you. Remember those words. It's not you. The feeling that you are having in this moment is just not you. The thoughts that you're having, they aren't you. They're just thoughts. And again, try not to get hooked into the thoughts. If you do get hooked into the thoughts, if you do get hooked into the feelings, try the coping tools. Remind yourself that you're not the feelings, not the thoughts. Let go. Put on some soft music, throw yourself a bath, get distracted with other things. Occupy your mind with puzzles, with games, with writing, so with creative expression. get in some sweetness, because that's typically what your system is craving. So I constantly had fresh orange juice around me, freshly squeezed juice, apples, that works brilliantly, and just get those things in. And again, you'll realize during the night it's okay up until the point of 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And this is typically when your liver and your gallbladder start to work. First the gallbladder from 11 o'clock till about 1 o'clock, and then from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock it's your liver that's working. And this is obviously when you start processing everything, and especially releasing a lot of the toxins. So you might wake up at these times, you might not sleep well at these times, you might be uncomfortable. Again, put yourself in a position where you then are awake, and it's okay to be awake. For me, again, the turning point was when I was a week without sleep. I'd stopped drinking alcohol, and nothing I did allowed me to sleep. And the more I wanted to sleep, the less I could sleep. And this was a week on end. And for some odd reason, I just was also not that tired. I just couldn't sleep. I think I was processing so much. Being in a space of lying down, being awake for 7 days in a row was really frightening. But after some time, I'd made peace with that feeling. I'd really come to accept it fully. I'd come to accept, well, if I'm not going to sleep, that's fine. I'll just not sleep. I'll lie down, close my eyes. And what I did at the time was I started to practice meditation. I'll be as still as possible. And it was the most profound experience. Even in today's time, in this moment, I am still challenged to get into that good of a meditation as I was then. It was the space of just being awake, yet in a deep stillness. So I would lie literally from 11 o'clock at night till 6, 7 o'clock at night, completely awake, but in a space of awareness of everything that was going around, but still. I'd just lie still and my eyes would be closed. And I guess that was the resting. I was still resting my body, I was still resting all parts of me, and I was learning to accept to be in this space, in this uncomfortable space, in this struggle. And for my mind, for my emotions, for my whole system, this was the turning point. To accept what was going on, to let it be. And the more I let it be, the more I accepted, the more I was able then all of a sudden to sleep. And all of a sudden I was able to sleep in the afternoons during 12 and 2. And that's when I took the opportunity. Every day I went to sleep between 12 and 2 at lunchtime. And then later I would sleep in the evenings from 7 to 10 or 7 to 9. And so I just embraced those things. And very important here is I would be very grateful for it. If it was 1 hour or half an hour or 2 hours, I would be exceptionally grateful, and I would express that gratitude to myself. I'd express it to the divine, God, the universe, whatever you feel. It's important to express that gratitude, because that hour really made me feel great. Just having 1 hour of sleep gave me energy, it gave my whole system a restart, and I was very grateful for it. So this you can relate back to drinking. And if you're in a space of resisting the drink, it's seriously uncomfortable, there's this craving, there's this need, your mind is going crazy, your emotions are going crazy, try and give yourself space. Try and be with those feelings. They will pass. The more you resist it, the more they will persist. So the more you allow it to be, the quicker it will pass. And that will be on your own journey, in your own space, as you allow it to pass. Use the coping tools, use the natural sugars, use the magnesium. But most importantly, be okay. Give yourself the space to be in acceptance, allow it to be. It is what you're going through, it is your body letting go, especially in the beginning as you let go of the toxins, the sweats, etc. This is an important role, learning to break disempowering habits. It is being in the space of allowing whatever comes up, the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, the negative judgments, everything that's there to be, but without acting out onto it, without hooking into it, just allow it to be for as long as it is there. If you do by chance get hooked into it, go back into the space of doing it over and over and over and over again until you're in the space of not being affected by it. And trust me, you will not die, you'll be fine. I thought I was going to die many times. I didn't. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I didn't. I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I didn't. I taught myself tools, and these tools I've shared with you in the coping tools, they really did help me, and they allowed my body to relax, my system to relax. But inevitably, the biggest thing that helped me was just being aware of what was going on and actually loving that to come up. It wanted to be heard, it wanted to be felt, it wanted to be sensed. And for that, it let go and I let go of it, and we became one. We came into a space of ease.